How you became a luxury hamster. Do you know what that iPhone Pro Max actually cost you? Not in dollars, not in your bank account, in hours, in days, in chunks of your life you're never getting back. Run the numbers with me. If you clear $25 an hour after taxes, that one $200 phone cost you 48 hours of your life. That's 6 full workdays. 6 mornings waking up to an alarm you hate, sitting in traffic you despise, nodding at a boss you'd love to never see again. All of that. Traded for a rectangle of glass and aluminum that'll be outdated in 2 years when they drop the next one with a slightly better camera and a new color called something like titanium sand. And the most brutal part? You already know you're going to do it again. That's how upgrade culture works. They didn't sell you a phone. They sold you the feeling that you're always one product behind happiness. The sneakers can't just be comfortable. Well, they have to be the limited drop that had you refreshing a website at midnight. The car works fine, but the dashboard looks like it's from 2015. The laptop runs everything you need, but what if you want to edit 8K video someday? Spoiler, you won't. But the seed is planted and it grows. Thoreau figured this out 170 years ago. Without Instagram making everything worse, he looked at the society around him and saw the machine clearly. Work like a prisoner to buy things that immediately feel insufficient, which forces you to work even harder to upgrade again. The hamster wheel. Except now the hamster is wearing a smartwatch and calling it a fitness journey, and the wheel is made of carbon fiber, so it feels like progress. And look at sneaker culture. Grown adults with 50 pairs of shoes stored in original boxes, some never worn, talking about them like investment portfolios. Investment in what exactly? In imaginary clout. In TikTok likes? In a status signal sent to strangers who don't care. Meanwhile, the same person is financing those shoes on a credit card while working a job they tolerate, terrified to wear the things they bought because they might crease. Logic didn't just die. It got buried and auctioned off as an NFT. Here's the truth that nobody wants to sit with. Every upgrade you make pulls you further from actual freedom. Because now you need more money to maintain the new floor you set for yourself. You bought a nicer car? Congratulations. The insurance went up. The maintenance goes to a dealership that charges $200 to rotate tires. Now you're scared to park it anywhere that doesn't have a camera. You moved into a bigger apartment? Great. Now you need furniture to fill those extra 300 square feet you didn't need. You need art for the walls. You need a rug that ties it together. Every upgrade is a new chain dressed up as a reward. You think you're climbing, you're digging. Who actually wins? Not you. The bank collecting interest on 60-month financing wins. The brand that engineered obsolescence and packaged it as innovation wins. The influencer getting paid to convince you that you need something wins. Everyone profits, except the person who just traded another 400 hours of their one life for a product that'll end up in a landfill. Thoreau chose to step off the wheel. You might think he was crazy, but he didn't die at 75 realizing he'd spent 4 decades accumulating a complete collection of gadgets that became e-waste. Upgrade culture is just a turbocharged version of the voluntary servitude he wrote about. You don't need the next model. You were convinced you do. There's an enormous difference between those two things, and that difference is your entire life. The myth of, when I have enough, death by existential procrastination. There's a man in your city who died last year waiting for retirement to travel. 63 years old. Heart attack at his desk. Never saw the places he saved the photos of. Spent 35 years saying, when I retire, then I'll go, then I'll finally do it. Then never came. He died with the ticket still in the cart. Before you tell yourself that's an exception, understand that it's the rule. Most people live in a permanent state of when I have enough money, when I have enough time, when the car's paid off, when the kids are older, when things settle down at work. It's an infinite list of conditions that have to be met before you give yourself permission to actually live. The problem is, the conditions are never fully met. There's always one more thing, always another reason to wait. Seneca knew this 2,000 years ago. He wrote that the issue isn't that we have too little time, it's that we waste so much of it. People complain that life is short while throwing away entire years waiting for a perfect moment that never arrives. They treat time like it renews automatically, like there's always a guaranteed later. Thoreau went to the woods specifically to escape that trap. He understood that if he waited for everything to be aligned before he started living deliberately, he'd die waiting, just like everyone else. You know someone who spent a decade at a job they hated, telling themselves they were building toward something real? I know several. Half of them gave up midway and made peace with the slow fade. The other half saved the money but lost the nerve, the health, or the window. A guy I know spent 8 years as a corporate attorney, hating every hour of it, saving up to open a coffee shop. By the time he had the money, he was 40, had chronic back problems, and a level of burnout so deep he spent most of the savings on therapy just to function. The coffee shop never happened. He's still an attorney. Now he's waiting for retirement to live for real. The core issue is this. Life is not waiting for you to clear your inbox. It's happening right now while you're pushing things to later. Every time you say, "when I have," you're making an implicit bet that there will be time afterward. That bet has terrible odds. Death doesn't check your calendar. It doesn't ask if you've finished your list. It just shows up. And then you become a statistic, one more person who didn't live. Thoreau wrote something that should be tattooed somewhere you can't ignore it. He said he went to the woods because he wanted to live deliberately, and not, when he came to die, discover that he had not lived. He wasn't being dramatic. He had the clarity to see that if he didn't choose to live intentionally now, he never would. How many people do you know who hit 65, 70, finally stopped, looked back, and couldn't answer the question, what did I actually do with my life? The answer is usually terrifying. They worked, they paid bills, they met obligations, they waited, and somewhere in the middle of all that, they forgot to live. Existential procrastination is the most common form of slow self-erasure. You don't end your life, but you don't live it either. You exist in a limbo, delaying everything that matters for a future that only exists in your head. The math of modern servitude. Who are you actually working for? Sit with me for a second, because I want to show you the spreadsheet of your own situation. Take what you earn per month. Divide it by the hours you work to earn it. That number, that's your price per hour of life, not your salary. The price you charge for pieces of your existence. Now walk through your home and calculate what everything actually cost you. That $2,000 TV. If you net $20 an hour, that's 100 hours. 4 full workdays converted into a screen. The couch. The car. Your car is years, literally. If it cost $40,000 and you take home $4,000 a month, you worked 10 months just for that piece of metal that lost 20% of its value the moment it left the lot. Fight Club got it half right. The things you own end up owning you. But the reality is worse. No, the things you own enslave you, because now you can't leave the job, can't take a risk, can't afford to step backward. You have a car payment, a lease, or a mortgage, a credit card balance that never quite reaches zero, a lifestyle that captured you. Thoreau calculated that he only needed to work about 6 weeks a year to cover his actual needs. The rest was pure life. You work 50 weeks a year and still finish in debt. Think about who's smarter in that arrangement. Look at average credit card debt. Millions of Americans are carrying balances at 20-something% interest, which means they're working months, sometimes years, just to pay for the right to have already consumed something they've forgotten about, not paying for the thing, paying for having had the thing in the past. That's working for free on behalf of a bank. The mechanism hasn't changed since the 19th century. It's just got a better app and a rewards program. And then there's retirement, the 40-year trade. You spend your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s building toward a finish line where, if everything goes right, you get to live on 60, 70% of what you were already surviving on. Older, slower, with health issues you accumulated from the stress of the grind, finally free to do the things you kept postponing. Except you're 67 now and your knees hurt and your best friend just got a diagnosis. Thoreau offered a different equation. What if instead of working 40 years to live 10 years of diminished retirement, you worked less, earned less, needed less, but had your life now? What if instead of selling 80,000 hours of your existence, you only sold 20,000 and spent the rest actually being alive? That sounds insane because you've been programmed to believe you need far more than you actually do. But the math doesn't lie. The less you need, the less you have to sell. The less you sell, the more life you have left over. You're exhausting yourself to maintain a lifestyle that doesn't make you happy, sold to you by people who profit from your exhaustion. The paradox of choice. Why having more options makes you more miserable. Have you ever spent 45 minutes scrolling Netflix and watched nothing? Opened a delivery app, stared at 60 restaurants, felt completely paralyzed, and ordered the same thing you always get? Walked into a shoe store with 400 options and left with nothing, because the more you looked, the less certain you felt? That's not indecision. That's the paradox of choice. More options don't make you more free. They make you more anxious, more frozen, more dissatisfied with whatever you do pick. Barry Schwartz spent years researching this and landed on a conclusion that goes against everything modern consumer culture sells you. Excess choice makes people unhappy. The logic you were sold is simple. More options means more freedom. Having 50 flavors of yogurt is progress. Being able to choose between 10 car brands is success. Having unlimited access to everything is the goal. It's a lie wrapped in the language of abundance. Thoreau saw this clearly 170 years ago without needing a research study. When he stripped down his possessions and eliminated options deliberately, he didn't feel deprived. He felt clear, because every choice you remove is cognitive weight you don't have to carry. It's mental energy you get back. It's time you stop spending on irrelevant decisions. Your brain wasn't built to process 200 choices before noon. For most of human history, most people had 3 or 4 options for most things. Your mind evolved in a world of scarcity. Now you're running it in a world of infinite input, and it's breaking under the load. Neuroscience calls it decision fatigue. Every choice you make burns cognitive fuel. By the end of the day, you're not exhausted from working hard. You're exhausted from making 300 micro decisions that meant nothing. Which shirt from 40 options? Which show from 5,000 titles? Which song from 80 million tracks? Which toothpaste from 30 variations on the same product? Your brain is overheating on noise. And the worst part, the more options you have, the worse you feel about whichever one you chose. Because the doubt never fully goes away. What if the other one was better? What if I should have waited? What if I'm missing something? That's FOMO running on a loop. You picked that restaurant, but spent dinner wondering if the other one was better. You bought the phone, but kept seeing ads for the one you didn't get. You took the job, but kept replaying the other offer. You're never fully in any choice because 1,000 alternatives are haunting everyone. Thoreau had 2 plates, a few shirts, 1 good pair of boots, not because he was poor, because he understood that freedom from unnecessary choice is actual freedom. He wasn't burning mental energy deciding what to wear or what to eat. That space went somewhere else. Thinking, writing, watching, being. While you're 40 minutes deep into a scroll trying to pick something to watch, he was writing Walden. Who had more clarity? A simple living solves the paradox the most direct way possible. It removes the choices that don't matter. You don't need 40 shirts. You need 6 that you actually like. You don't need 4 streaming services. You need maybe 1. You don't need 12 delivery apps. You need food that works for you. Every option you cut gives you back something more valuable than the option. Peace. The status fraud. Impressing people you don't even like. Who exactly did you buy that thing for? No, seriously, stop and answer it. The people who actually love you don't care what's on your wrist. Your real friends aren't tracking your shoe rotation. You already know the thing is just a thing. So who are you performing for? Strangers. People you'll never see again. Or worse, people you know but don't particularly like, who are running the exact same play you are, trying to impress each other with objects none of you can comfortably afford. It's a theater of the absurd where everyone is simultaneously the actor and the audience, and nobody's enjoying the show. Thorstein Veblen wrote about conspicuous consumption in 1899. He explained that wealthy people buy expensive, often useless things, not because they need them, but to signal status, to demonstrate that they can afford to waste money. It's display behavior, like a peacock fanning its feathers. Except the peacock is at least trying to reproduce. What are you doing it for? So your neighbor sees the car in your driveway and knows you're doing well? He already knows, or more accurately, he knows you have debt, because he has debt too. Everyone is leveraged, trying to appear wealthy. It's a race to see who can look the most successful before the balance comes due. Scroll Instagram for 5 minutes. It's a parade of performance. The dinner photo that stretched the monthly budget. The travel photo from the trip that's sitting on a credit card. The outfit that came from an outlet. Mostly fiction. All performance. And for what? Validation from people who are also performing. It's a collective fraud where everyone is lying and everyone knows everyone else is lying, and nobody can admit it because then the whole thing collapses, and everyone would have to sit with the emptiness they've been trying to fill with engagement metrics. Gatsby bought a mansion and threw parties for years, all for one woman, and died alone. The people who consumed everything he offered didn't show up when it mattered. Nobody went to the funeral because nobody actually cared about him. They cared about what he provided. The moment the supply stopped, so did they. You're running a smaller version of the same operation, building a projection. And the people impressed by the projection don't know you. They know the image. If the image disappeared tomorrow, most of them would too. Thoreau didn't care about any of that. He lived in a cabin. He had no status to signal. His contemporaries thought he was a failure. He didn't lose sleep over it because he understood something they didn't. Status seeking is a race with no finish line. There's always someone with more, always a level above, always a new benchmark designed to make you feel like you're not quite there yet. The game is rigged so you never win. The only move that makes sense is to stop playing. And something strange happens when you actually do. You get free. Free to buy what genuinely works for you rather than what signals the right thing. Free to spend your time on what actually interests you. Free to be who you are without the maintenance cost of a curated identity. And here's the irony. When you stop trying to impress people, you often become more interesting to them. Authenticity is rare. In a world full of performance, being real is unusual. But by that point, it doesn't matter anymore, because you've stopped playing the game. The status con is this: trading your peace, your money, your time, and your actual personality for applause from people you don't deeply respect. It has never been worth it. It will never be worth it. Mental silence. The luxury nobody sells because there's no margin in it. When was the last time you sat alone with your own thoughts for 10 minutes and didn't panic? No phone, no podcast, no background TV, no music, nothing. Just you and your own mind. If you're like most people, the honest answer is you don't know. Or never. And that's not an accident. It's a design feature. The modern attention economy runs on your distraction. Silence is the enemy of consumption. Because in silence, you might notice things that are uncomfortable, that you're not happy, that you've been operating on autopilot for years, that your priorities have drifted so far from what actually matters to you that you barely recognize them. If you notice that, you might change something. If you change something, you might stop consuming the way you do. And if enough people did that, the whole machine slows down. Buddhist monks spend years pursuing mental stillness through meditation, not because it became a wellness trend, because they figured out something fundamental. An untrained mind is a prison. It jumps from thought, from worry to anxiety to craving to distraction, constantly, without ever landing anywhere. It's a drunk monkey swinging through trees, and you're just along for the ride. Thoreau went to Walden Pond to build external conditions that made internal quiet possible. No city noise, no social obligations, no infinite scroll of input. And in that silence, he found a level of clarity that he couldn't access anywhere else. Today, that kind of clarity is almost impossible to access. Your brain is absorbing somewhere between 6,000 and 10,000 distinct messages daily. Notifications, emails, texts, headlines, videos, ads, ambient noise, conversations. It's a flood that never stops, and it's intentional. The attention economy profits from your distraction. The more scattered you are, the more you consume. The more anxious you feel, the more you seek relief through buying. The emptier you feel, the more you chase external stimulation. It's a perfect loop for them. For you, it's a mental hell dressed up as everyday life. Neuroscience has a name for what this does to you: cognitive overload. Your brain can't process the volume of information you're putting through it. It shifts into survival mode, stops thinking deeply, and starts reacting shallowly. You get slower, not because you're less capable, but because your mind is running 500 tabs and none of them are fully loaded. That's why you can't finish a book anymore. Why your attention drifts mid-conversation. Why complex problems feel impossible to sit with. Your capacity for deep focus didn't disappear. It drowned. Drowned in cheap dopamine from short videos and the constant low-grade anxiety of being permanently plugged in. Thoreau wrote his most important work in the silence of Walden. No ambient playlist, no background noise, no notifications pulling him out every 8 minutes. Just silence, and in that silence, he could actually hear himself think. He could process, reflect, connect ideas, think all the way to the end of a thought instead of getting pulled away before he got there. You're probably feeling the pull right now, the urge to check something, the low-grade itch of being present in a single piece of content for this long. That's not a character flaw, that's conditioning. You were trained to need constant input, trained to feel uncomfortable in stillness, trained to treat silence like a problem to be solved with more noise. Because if you could sit comfortably in silence, you might start hearing things you've been drowning out. The truth about whether you're actually happy. The quiet knowledge of what you'd do with your life if the pressure lifted. The voice underneath everything that has been waiting for you to be still long enough to listen. A simpler life gives you silence back, not by eliminating all input, but by drastically reducing the noise. Fewer possessions means fewer things demanding your attention. Fewer commitments means less ambient anxiety. Fewer options means less cognitive overload. And in the space that opens up, something you forgot you had comes back. A mind that actually works, that can think a thought all the way through, that can be present in a moment without needing to document it or escape it. Mental silence is the most expensive thing in the modern world. Not because it costs money, because it costs you everything you're using to avoid yourself. And most people will choose anything at all, rather than sit alone with who they actually are. Because somewhere underneath all the noise, they suspect they won't like what they find. Thoreau was willing to look. The question is whether you are.